Good morning. Off to another day at work. We are going to be streaming once again NPR this morning. I've done a little research, and it turns out the reason why I can't just live stream this crap and I have to actually spend time uploading and things, it's because I don't have 1,000 subscribers. Holy fuck. Are 1,000 people going to want to listen to me ranting on my way to work and home from work? I guess we'll end up finding out here. Oh, motherfucker, damn it. It'll be a fun thing. This is a great thing. I was kind of asking myself, why am I doing this? And yeah, I'm trying to create something online for myself. I feel like there is room for, a more, I'm libertarian, but, living in Minneapolis, conservative voices are non-existent, and like I've lived in like a small town. I grew up in a small town where liberal voices were non-existent, and it's just kind of, pulling people out of their camps, I think is my main goal, at the very least, to kind of get a better understanding of each other. I went to a gun protest at the state capitol in St. Paul. Would have been about a year and a half ago. And, I'm very pro-gun. I don't own a gun, but I'm very pro, Second Amendment. I think it is a very important amendment. In a way, it protects all of our other rights. And when there was one crazy gun guy, not someone who, with much self-doubt, just kind of a little off his rocker, and he was, there trying to create a scene, more or less, and people were debating him, and when people brought up some points, I kind of interjected, and they were saying, you don't need these guns, you're not going to protect yourself, you're more likely to commit suicide than protect yourself, which is very true. There are moral aspects. There are moral aspects, you can look at in the gun control debate. However, when I brought up the idea that, is we don't have the Second Amendment to protect ourselves from each other or to, or to go hunting, it's to protect ourselves from the government, people seemed really receptive of that, I think if you were to put the whole, gun control debate in the context of history, it becomes a lot less fluff and a lot more, hey, there's been a lot of shit going on throughout history where, normal people should be able to, decide for themselves how their lives are going to take shape. And a lot of people are receptive of that. And, you talk about going to a gun control rally where, the people that are going to get up and do that for the day, they are the big purveyors of gun control. And the fact that they were receptive and, not argumentative, I mean, maybe that's Minnesotan. That's just the Minnesotanness of it. That could be one aspect of it. It definitely wasn't, Antifa I was talking to. But I think having, straightforward, honest debates with people, you're probably not going to change their mind. They're probably not going to change yours, but at least you can create an understanding and see where people are coming from. I think that's, kind of what I'm wanting to add online there. But we'll see how it goes here. So one of the great stalwarts of the left here in Minnesota is NPR, Minnesota Public Radio, which has NPR station programming, mixed in with local news and things like that. And the reason why it's such a big, bastion of liberalness is because they know they get taxpayer money. It's public, it's a public entity, theoretically it's provided by the people for the people through taxes, and they do it very well. It's very well organized. It's very well done. They have interesting stories. It's all done through a lens. They'll actually, NPR, when they're being not biased, they actually tend to get a bit of backlash from a lot of their listeners. They have to defend themselves when they're in their most impartial moments. It's kind of funny. It doesn't happen too often that they bring it up on the air, but it does happen when people are kind of brought out of their liberal echo chambers by someone who they feel like should be an ally to basically all the causes. So NPR, liberal bastion, public, my taxpayer dollars pay for a portion of it. It's not 100% funded by the taxpayers. They do have sustaining members and things like that, but it is the cornerstone of what liberals and the very progressive far left look towards, to show, hey, look what we can do, more or less, regardless of whether or not it is true reporting. So that's kind of where I'm going there, and it looks like traffic's not that bad today, so I am going to just turn on NPR here.
And turn the pages because of her disability.
Who could read that letter and not be moved?
J.D. Salinger clearly detested digital media, but making his works accessible to people, that mattered to him.
He was always aware of keeping his books accessible. I don't think he really thought through the issue of handicapped people reading.
So to ensure the works become even more accessible, Salinger's estate is donating 1,000 ebooks to libraries. Matt Salinger is now also busy digitizing decades of his father's unpublished writing, a project that he expects could take years, but we're all glad that he's doing it. He also wants to find the author of that letter to say thanks and also give her a coupon for a free ebook. We appreciate you listening to the program this morning on your public radio station, and stay in touch throughout the day. You can find us on social media, visit the Morning Edition Facebook page, and we are all over Twitter. You can find me at NPR Green. Noel King is at Noel King. Rachel Martin is at Rachel NPR, and Steve Inskeep is at NPR Inskeep.
And thanks for listening to Morning Edition on NPR News. For a working musician, the office is usually a bar or nightclub. That can pose unique challenges for performers trying to stay sober. I'm Brent Williams. At 11, we're talking about staying clean in the music scene. We hear from a former Obama staff member in moments. She talks about a new rule that makes it less likely for immigrants who use public benefits to obtain a green card. That conversation at moments here on NPR Newsnight.
I just talked with Chris.
Reading a commentary in the New Sahan Journal.
We'll be talking about these new immigration rules on the podcast Sunday.
In the city. We will talk with him on tomorrow's Morning Edition program. News about immigrants and immigration at sahanjournal.com. We have cloudy skies, a temperature of 63 degrees here in the Twin Cities. They say it's going to get nice today, partly cloudy, but remain cool with those north winds. High temperatures in the mid-70s for the Twin Cities, lows in the 50s tonight. Support for news comes from Baird for 100.
So it's mid-August, and you can already feel fall coming right now. They're talking about pumpkin spice. I'm not ready for it. I need at least one more month full of summer. I did not do anything this summer at all. So it's the fact that the season's already over in Minnesota sucks.
Education for underserved students. Learn more at ecmcfoundation.org. and C3.ai. C3.ai software enables organizations to use artificial intelligence at enterprise scale, solving previously unsolvable business problems. Learn more at C3.ai.
This is Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm David Green in Culver City, California.
And I'm Rachel Martin in Washington, D.C. A new rule put forward by the Trump administration will make it less likely that immigrants who use public safety net programs or who might in the future will be approved for a green card or be allowed to stay in the United States. Yesterday, I talked about that with Ken Cuccinelli. He's acting director of Citizenship and Immigration Services. And I asked him whether the policy change reflects the values outlined in the new Colossus. That's the Emma Lazarus poem featured at the Statue of Liberty. The iconic verse begins, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Here is part of Cuccinelli's response.
Give me your tired and your poor who can stand on their own 2 feet and who will not become a public charge.
That rewrite of Emma Lazarus's poem and the change itself generated a strong response from immigration advocates, including Cecilia Munoz. She served as a senior staff member in the Obama White House and is now a vice president at the New America think tank here in Washington. Cecilia, thanks so much for being back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You spent some time on Twitter yesterday writing about Ken Cuccinelli's remarks in our interview and the policy change in general. Can you just summarize what your thoughts were?
Yeah, the first thing we know is that immigrants use public benefits less than natives of the United States. So there's no problem that needs to be solved here with this new policy. But the impact of the new policy really will have 2 parts. One is that there will be many, many fewer immigrants, and they are likely to be from parts of the world like Latin America, and that people in the United States, Americans, the people who want to reunite with, say, their spouses, or bring their spouses in with a visa, will be less likely to get services that they need out of fear that that will affect their ability to bring in a loved one like a spouse. So it's a terrible outcome. This is really about changing who comes and how many people come, which is something the Trump administration has been wanting to do, and they're using this tool to do it.
You also, in that Twitter thread, cited surveys suggesting that fewer immigrants applying for public benefits, we're talking about food stamps or Medicaid, that number has dropped over just fears of being viewed as a public charge. Even if these particular people wouldn't fit into that category, that there is a potential chilling effect.
Yes, we know that there's been a chilling effect just as a result of the conversation about this rule. We know that people in the United States are using fewer benefits. They're not doing things like getting medical services or seeking nutritional programs for themselves and, very importantly, for their kids, out of fear that that's going to affect their ability to bring in a loved one from another country as an immigrant. So it is already causing harm, and we expect that harm to get worse as this rule becomes final.
You also wrote that the rule change is a way to bait the left into talking about poverty and need. Can you explain that?
By doing this, the Trump administration has us all talking about, well, but what about people who are poor? What about people who are in need? That's true, but that's because immigrants are human beings. They're not immortal. They're just like the rest of us. They have periods in between jobs where they might need a little bit of help. They get illnesses like the rest of us. They have accidents like the rest of us. This is essentially saying you have to be immortal. You have to be superhuman if there's an immigrant in your family that you want to bring into the United States. We are better than that. We have been better than that as a nation. And this takes us back to some of the darker times in our history when we were attempting to choose immigrants by race. We've done that in our history in the United States. And this administration is trying to do it again.
As the Trump administration, frankly, the last couple of years,
we only want Asians,
the change
apparently.
in immigration policy. Has it caused you to reflect differently about your own time in the Obama White House working on immigration? I mean, the same group, the advocacy group, the National Council of La Raza, where you once worked, dubbed Barack Obama the deporter-in-chief back in 2014.
Yeah, what I'd say about that is that in the Obama administration, we worked mightily to affect how we enforce the law and to make sure that we actually applied a strategy. And that strategy, with respect to who we removed, was focused on people who were very newly arrived and weren't in the asylum process, and people who were convicted of serious crimes. And, the folks who are making the argument now that that was excessive really should put forward a different approach. The conversation should not be about whether we enforce the law. It should be about how, and which is exactly what we try to effect. I think it's possible to do better. We should be having a conversation about how to do better, but not a conversation about whether to enforce the law.
Cecilia Munoz, she was a senior advisor under President Obama on immigration and now a vice president at the New America think tank. Thank you so much for your time.
So, and
As of today,
yep, that was the whole segment, and this is a reoccurring theme with NPR, where if there's an issue, they bring on someone liberal or they bring in a faux Republican. They will bring in someone that might be more conservative in nature, but on this particular issue, they are left-leaning, or is they would probably feel more sensible, they would think. When it comes to people coming here to work and then taking public assistance, bring me your huddled masses yearning to live free. To live free is to live free and self-sufficient, to not be dependent or beholden to the government. To have people come here to work and then take public assistance, we can't do that for, a billion people. A billion people, if they could come here, they would. But if a billion people come here, then America won't be America anymore, And that's the thing is immigration to the United States is not a charity, it's a business transaction. We cannot immigrate poverty out of the world. It's impossible. There's too many people. There's somewhat, half a billion people, or not half a billion, half the world's population makes less than the average person in Mexico. That is, and Mexico is one of our, greatest, immigrating nations. The fact that you would come here and, take money from the people whose society you just entered, which is what government assistance is. It is not charity. It is taken by force. It is more or less a way to keep impoverished people from rioting. That is a real thing. It's one thing. There are charities that help people. There are charities, that help with short-term assistance. And if you feel that these rules are, are unfair in a certain way, then what you should be doing is helping create alternatives to government-taken money systems. So, Section 8 housing or food stamps, that is money, that is housing and food paid for by money taken from people. I don't know, look at your paycheck. Maybe it's just because I have very few deductions on my paycheck stub, but I pay twice as much in taxes as I do in rent. $1,600, if I'm not mistaken, is what I paid for in taxes last month. If I could put that, living my same lifestyle, and I could put $1,600 away each month in a 401k, or just investments, gold, bonds. If I could invest that $1,600, what dependence would I have on anyone else? Currently I invest, you try to do 10%, and it's nowhere near, 10% of my gross income is nowhere near $1,600. I'm not, that's an insane amount. Living my current lifestyle, I would be able to stow away the $1,600. I would have so much more autonomy within my life. $1,600, that's $16,000, $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, nearly $20,000 a year I am paying to the government. That's an insane amount of money. And for people to come here to provide more competition for jobs, many of these jobs are needing filled, and in the end, it is beneficial to us. We are able to buy cheaper products, have cheaper services because of it, but it also overall lowers, there's more people competing for lower level jobs, especially, if you're going to be taking assistance, you're most likely going to be you're working maybe seasonal jobs and those kind of things, and you're staying beyond, your green card, or if you lose a job while you're on a green card, you came here based on your job. You came here saying, I have this job. I'm coming here to provide this service. I am not coming here to take your money. It's a business transaction when it comes to people getting green cards. It is a self-sufficient route towards, not citizenship. It's a self-sufficient, track towards, moving to America. They're not coming here as refugees. They're coming here as labor, most of the time skilled labor when it comes to, green cards and those kind of things. So the fact that they come here saying that they are self-sufficient, saying that they are having this job, it's basically holding them to the standard of what they had represented themselves with at the time of their application. For people to, take government assistance is to basically say the reason, the pretense from which I had presented myself for entry into your country no longer exists. Now I want money to live. Basically, I don't want to go back to where I'm from. I want to stay here, and I want you to help pay for my food and pay for these kind of things. There are hardships, and it's not to be callous in any way, but immigration is not charity. It is not charity. We are taking skilled labor, hardworking people from countries that could desperately use it. In the grand scheme of things, we are being selfish when it comes to bringing these people in. And I think a great point is if you disagree with any of these proposals, if you disagree with people not being allowed to take food assistance from the government and have their eligibility to bring someone new in or renew their green card, create alternative avenues for them. If you want to help bridge these gaps, and most of the time it is a gap, invest in alternatives to government, invest in housing vouchers, invest in short-term housing payments, donate your money to churches and things like that. They quite consistently help people bridge these gaps. Start charities or contribute to charities that focus on housing and on healthcare. If you really want to help people, that is the best way to go about doing it.
He says the incident is a tragic reminder of the consequences of improperly stored firearms. In sports, the Minnesota Twins play the Brewers in Milwaukee tonight. The Twins beat the Brewers 7-5 last night, and they maintain a half-game lead over Cleveland in the AL Central. This is NPR News. The time, 8:34.
Marketplace Tech is supported by the Minova Global Health Summit, October 14th through 16th in Minneapolis. Presenting nearly 100 disruptors in health, including Theranos whistleblowers Tyler Schultz and Erica Chung. For tickets, visit minovasummit.com.
Diversity in tech could start with Diversity in Tech meetups. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech, demystifying the digital economy. I'm Amy Scott, in from Hollywood.
Marketplace Tech is supported by Condor Airlines, offering non-stop service from 10 U.S. gateways to Frankfurt, Germany and beyond. Details and flight times on condor.com. And by Home Advisor, helping homeowners find local pros for their home projects. Homeowners can get matched to pros, read reviews, and check cost guides at homeadvisor.com.
There's been more attention lately on who's part of the tech boom and who's not. At Facebook, Google, and Apple, about 3 in 4 technical employees are men. Those are the coders, engineers, developers. African Americans make up a tiny share of that workforce, just 1.5% at Facebook, 2% at Google, and 6% at Apple. That's data from the companies themselves. One place companies find new talent is at tech meetups. These are casual.
Who is going to be interested in computers? Maybe it's different now with the Gen Zs and whatever, but I remember the first time I heard a guy say, hey, I built my own computer, and he was this white nerdy dude, and I was shocked by it. I was like, you built your own fucking computer? What? How's that even possible? And that's like, you build a computer. Computers are fucking, they're an enigma. They just are, It was in high school and he built his own computer, and that kind of dude you see in so many nerd videos on YouTube. It's what speaks to the crowd there, and they're wanting to say that racism is at the bottom of it. No, it's personal interest. There's a reason why these demographics are there, because that demographic is the one that started it all. You know, it's like saying Asians, are overrepresented in, being doctors, those kind of things. It's a ridiculous thing. Guys, I am going to park in a different parking lot to smoke a cigarette before I actually go to my meeting here. I very much enjoyed having you. I noticed that when I look to change lanes, I'm giving myself whiplash every single time. So I'm going to try to change the way I'm driving here. I also noticed my beard looked kind of shitty yesterday, so I put some beard oil in it, and I just got off the wrong exit. So, guys, you have a great day. I'm not going to post this until after work, but you have a great day, and fuck me, I am now lost. Okay, thank you.